This week's episode is sponsored by Together, the film critics have called the best horror movie of the year. With a perfect 100% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, Together stars Dave Franco and Alison Brie in an unforgettable, epic horror that Bloody Disgusting calls a wild crowd pleaser that will leave you laughing and screaming in equal measure. Don't miss Together, the breakout horror movie event of the year, exclusively in theaters July 30th.
This is a story about the supernatural.
Shelterwood is the land of dreams. If you want to find something here, you will.
This is a story of disappearances and homecomings.
I know your whole world has been turned upside down, but listen, I was really hoping I could convince you not to go back out there.
Investigating the disappearance of my sister, Sadie DeRosso.
I've never heard of anyone coming back, ever.
Subscribe now to Shelterwood, a suburban gothic, to follow this story.
Do you know what time it is? It's time to go Radio Rental. Radio Rental is a podcast with a collection of the scariest stories you've ever heard, all told by real people. Ooh, terrifying. Radio Rental is available now. Listen for free on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your stupid podcasts.
Welcome to Scare You to Sleep. I'm your host, Shelby Novak, and I'm here to read you a bedtime story. Tonight, we have a story of witches. Please enjoy this tale by a new author to the show, T.C. Kinsey. This is A Drink in Madrid. The night was dark and clear, so that the starlit sky could be seen through the gaps in the rooftops. On the ground, the warm glow of orange lantern light laid over gray-black cobblestones, and the occasional bits of trash left by bumbling tourists. One of these tourists was wandering his way into the narrow alleys, lost in his drunken ignorance, using the walls of the buildings as a guide. He began to amble down a particularly steep alley. Stumbling down the steps and attempting to catch himself, he happened upon the doorway of a bar. Releasing a cackle at his convenient discovery, he entered and promptly took a seat on one of the bar stools. There were very few people in the place. A small group of older men sat at a table in a corner, and there were a couple of people on either side of the bar. The men in the corner arched their necks to see a blurry and boxy TV suspended from the ceiling. They were watching some football game that was nearly inaudible and too pixelated to make out, though the screen illuminated most of the room in pale blue light. The bartender could tell that the man was a tourist, but the night was slow, and he was glad to have a customer. "A drink for you?" he offered to the already drunk man. "Yes, I'll have a sangria. No, maybe some... Well, what do you drink in Madrid?" he asked, still lost. "I like whiskey," the bartender said with a lack of patience. "Oh, yes, that's good." The bartender began preparing the whiskey without bothering to ask any further details on how he wanted it. He considered the man's drunkenness and thought he could have poured the sangria instead and the man would have taken it. "What's your name?" the man asked in a slurred exclamation. "Me? I am Eduardo," He slid the glass across to the man. Eduardo, nice to meet you. Eduardo. Very good. I'm Adam. He smiled, happy to be drinking again. I bet you can't guess where I'm from. Maybe Ireland? Eduardo said plainly. Adam grinned like they were referencing some sort of inside joke. Why do you say that? Adam leaned forward, awaiting a response. Maybe not. I'd say Ireland because you like to drink, but American because you cannot hold your liquor. He had started the conversation dryly, but had found the American more amusing now, the way aloof people can be sometimes. Besides, he wasn't in the business to find drunk people annoying after all. Well, I suppose I have had a few, he said, staring down the glass. The television flickered for a moment, but 2 of the 3 men had already been snoring. Eduardo shook his head, continuing to polish glasses. Adam swirled his whiskey, picking at the wood on the bar, where it had swelled and splintered from the condensation of many cold drinks. A woman from the left side of the room approached the bar, emerging from the darkness. Eduardo, más vino? More wine, she asked, sliding her glass towards him. The woman had pitch black hair that fell down below her waist. Blue light from the TV draped over her clean, pale skin. Her eyes sparkled violet-colored as she glanced over at Adam and smiled. Hola, what's your name? He did his best to sober up, dropping the slurriness of his words. Eva, she pronounced, speaking heavily accented but slightly different from Eduardo. Well, look at us. Adam and Eva. He swirled his whiskey and took a sip. Jesus Christ, Eduardo muttered in English. His eyes stayed locked on his work as though he couldn't bear to watch their interaction. Eva was seemingly unfazed. Leaning over, Adam reached out to shake her hand, which she placed softly in his. When their fingers touched, an electric shock moved through his arm. They watched each other for a moment, communicating with their eyes. Adam began to laugh as he watched her, rubbing his face with his hand. Why do you laugh at me? She asked playfully. Oh, nothing. You just remind me of a song. He paused to look at her. Raven hair, ruby lips, sparks, he sang before trailing off and laughing again. Ay, brujas, she said, understanding the reference. Come again, he said, not understanding the translation. Bruja is rarely something a lady would like to be called, Eduardo half-whispered to Adam. Still confused, Adam turned to Eva. What do you know about witches? She challenged. What do you know about America? He paused again, trying to appear somewhat intellectual. Back in the States, in New England, sometime around the 1600s, we had witch trials. A couple dozen people were accused and hung. Big vacation spot these days. I don't remember the details, but all it really was were some little girls with a wild imagination. Big mess, if you ask me. Oh, and voodoo. We have that too. He sat back, looking satisfied with his general knowledge. Ah, like El Crisol? I love Winona Ryder, Eva remarked. Oh, the Crucible. Yeah, she's great. He smiled as he drained the rest of his glass. You know, We have our own witches in España. She spoke slyly as she traced her finger around the rim of the glass. Don't they come from Europe anyhow? Adam was still attempting to know what she was talking about. No, in Madrid. Really only in Francia y Alemania, Eduardo said, raising an eyebrow at Ava. I am not from Madrid, she smiled. I am from Logroño. Both Eduardo and Adam were silently waiting her explanation. The Inquisition found us, and many were killed out of fear. Ava looked down at her wine. Nobody expects that. Adam joked. Nobody laughed. I have not heard of this Logroño, and El Inquisición, yes, but Las Brujas? No. Eduardo seemed to be doubting her tale. Oh, yes, they were quite serious. They first hunted and killed all of Los Gatos, familiars, she clarified. But when that did not satisfy, they burned many women at the stake. She flicked a lighter, conveniently, and lit a cigarette. That could never work here. I read somewhere they practically worship cats in Madrid. Adam joked again. Almost Ciudad de los Gatos, they call us. Eduardo smiled. What were those, brujas accused of, anyway? Adam questioned Ava. Many things, I believe. Illness, death, curses. Things you might expect. But also, some things more strange. Livestock found split, stomach open, and drained of blood. When they found young boys like this, and men, many women were burned, she concluded. Spooky. Adam smiled, bewitched by her gaze. Ava smiled back. Oh, yes. I do not live there anymore, but we had many ghosts as children. In quiet stillness, the two watched each other once more. Ava blew thick smoke into the air, creating wispy clouds that she waved away with her hands. Suddenly, Eduardo was pulled away from his polishing. Two of the older men had apparently awoken and were having a disagreement about the game. Do you like America? Ava prodded. Suits me all right. It's about all I've ever known. Till I came here. He looked up and gestured around. Do you like España? Yes, of course. And now you will love it too. How much have you seen? She sat up eagerly. Not much. I'd like to see more, though. He grinned, hoping she would understand his remark. I could take you about, you know. I have some places in mind. She swiveled her stool to face him, crossing her legs. Oh, really? Well, where shall we start? He felt he was getting where he wanted. She sarcastically pondered. How about my flat? She suggested casually, blowing more smoke into the air. Are there many things to see there? He said, as if he was the one seducing her. Many things. Something I'd like to show you, she said, while flicking some cigarette ash that had fallen on her thigh. Eduardo returned in a huff, shaking his head at the old men. The bell at the door jingled as one of the old men departed, muttering Spanish curses under his breath. "Let me gather my things." Ava dismounted the stool and slid back to the dark end of the bar. Adam stood and opened his wallet, placing the euros on the bar. "For me and the lady." He smiled towards the darkness. "Oh, and for you." He laid out some more bills. "Gracias, amigo." Eduardo gathered the money warily. "And one more thing." He gestured for Adam to come closer. "Ava is a nice girl," he whispered. "Very nice," Adam agreed. "But, amigo, I must warn you of something. She takes men home quite often. She always pays her tab and brings good business, but she enjoys many hombres," Eduardo said, apologetically, with an expression that showed his concerned sincerity. "Thank you, Eduardo, but I think I know what I'm getting myself into." He winked. "That is good enough for me." He smiled, patting Adam on the shoulder. Ava returned with her purse, and the pair left the bar. The night air was still warm, for so late in the night. The streets somehow seemed more still, blanketed in the orange lamplight. Ava guided Adam through the streets. He still couldn't navigate. The warm air and the alcohol made him feel like he was floating past the buildings. She teased him when he tried to get close, their laughter echoing through the sleepy alleys. "Almost there," she said, batting her eyelashes. They went up and down the hilly streets until she slowed, turning down her own. The street was filled with old cars that looked rarely, if ever, driven. The cobblestone pavement raised up in the middle, so that the length of the street itself was a hill, like a snake winding between the houses. "Here we are." She approached an ancient door. The jangling of keys was followed by the creaking of the tall wooden door as she led him inside. He followed as they entered a dim hallway, crowded by a dresser on the left and a coat rack to the right. "One moment while I tidy up." She slid her hand over his before disappearing into the apartment. The sound of running water and opening cabinets soon followed. Adam was still stuck in the hall, exploring the clutter. There seemed to be items on every surface. The rack was filled with coats, hats, and canes. The dresser was covered in bits and bobs of keys and jewelry. Glancing in the mirror, Adam finally noticed his appearance. His dress shirt had been wrinkled and was loosely hanging off him, and his pants were in a similar condition. Fixing his clothes and hair, he realized his attempt to fit in with the locals was not working. Gazing once more, he began to laugh, realizing his drunkenness. As he leaned on the dresser, he knocked some things loose and quickly reached to replace them. The fallen items had been wallets lining a crooked shelf like books. He felt a strangeness coming over him as he put them back. "You aren't a pickpocket, are you?" he shouted out to her. No. She laughed. "Only a hobby. I see you found my collection." He was about to open one of them when he heard the turning of a doorknob. Light pooled in at the end of the hallway as she came around the corner. The yellow light glinted off a tattered, dark red satin nightgown she had put on to replace her dress. Adam quickly put back the wallet, caught off guard by her spectral silhouette.
Yeah, it's very interesting,
he said, not quite casually. Don't worry, I'm not trying to get into your pants. You can keep your wallet. She slinked off into the next room.
Well, let's not get too ahead of ourselves.
Adam quickly followed.
This is a story about the supernatural.
Shelterwood is the land of dreams. If you want to find something here, you will.
This is a story of disappearances and homecomings.
I know your whole world has been turned upside down, but listen, I was really hoping I could convince you not to go back out there.
Investigating the disappearance of my sister, Sadie DeRosso.
I've never heard of anyone coming back, ever.
Subscribe now to Shelterwood, a Suburban Gothic, to follow this story.
The room was small, but he could tell it was likely the largest in the apartment. A low lounging couch and a couple of chairs surrounded an ornate rug. Many other rugs and tapestries adorned the walls and furniture. A purplish-pink light lit the room, provided by thin sheets of colored fabric hanging below a skylight. There was also a dim yellow light from a lamp set upon a cabinet to the left of the furniture. Atop the cabinet also sat a record player and some bottles of liquor. Make yourself comfortable. Ava gestured to the array of furniture spread around the room. Adam took a moment to consider his options before settling down in a weathered old chair. Gazing about the room, he felt as if he were in some lived-in antique shop where nothing was for sale, and the shopkeeper was no sweet old lady. Ava put on a scratchy old record that played eerie jazz. The music and the setting caused Adam to sober up. Following her movements nervously, he watched Ava light a candle that seemed to have covered the cabinet in melted wax. To begin our ritual, she said excitedly, kneeling before Adam. What? Adam let out, sitting up as she neared him. The witches, remember? She ran her dark red painted finger across his torso, making a ripping sound with her mouth. Oh, yeah. He forced a laugh. Oh, don't be afraid. We're only getting started. She ran her fingernails up his arm and into his hair. Adam felt less nervous as she kissed his neck and face. The music sounded more soothing now as they kissed. Adam felt in a trance as Ava moved her arms about him. She slid her hands over his arms and legs. It was only when she pulled away that he realized she had tied him to the chair.
What the?
Adam looked down frantically at his bindings. What's the matter? She said. I'm only playing with you. She laughed, letting her gown flutter up at him as she turned around.
This is all just a little much for me.
He swallowed the lump in his throat. Oh, this reminds me of being a young girl in Logroño. She placed a hand to her forehead before turning to the cabinet. Adam remained silent, puzzled with the comment. You Americans are so easy, you know. Always so eager and unafraid. She began fiddling with the bottles.
With a doll like you, it's easy to be easy,
he commented,
hoping she wouldn't notice him struggling with the rope.
"Have a drink?" she said, without turning around. The flickering candle caused her shadowy figure to dance about the wall. A 1,000 scenarios raced through his head.
No thanks.
He was really struggling against the rope now. The bottle stopped clinking as Ava replaced the record with an equally scratchy and old one. There was a quiet and high-pitched wail that could only be interpreted as singing. "There's something different about you, I think," Ava said as she turned around with her drink.
"I could say the same thing about you."
Adam had frozen as she turned to face him. She only laughed at his remark. "There's just something familiar, but also mysterious, just different." Ava used a pillow to lounge on as she returned to the floor.
You mean you don't tie up all your boys?
Adam tried to joke as his heart beat through his chest. "No, not that. I just can't place it." She smiled and gazed up at him. Ava watched Adam as she had done at the bar, studying him and talking with her eyes. Adam stared back once more with curiosity, though he no longer smiled. Ava continued to maintain eye contact as she threw back her drink. Adam tensed up as she slithered towards him. The music did not become soothing as it had before. The woman's voice shrieked through the scratching static of the music. Adam winced as Ava touched his chest. Hushing him, she brought a finger to his lips and then returned her hands to his chest, opening his shirt. Ava raised up to put her face next to his, kissing him once more. Adam didn't know what to think. She placed her hand directly on his heart. Though his heartbeat slowed, he seemed to become more anxious. His heartbeat slowed more and more until it stopped. He was conscious and breathing, but his heart had ceased to beat. Ava smiled against Adam's lips. Opening his eyes in confusion, he was met by her piercing stare. As her lips pulled back from his, he felt the tip of a knife pierce the skin just below his ribs. This was it. When Ava flew back, splintering the cabinet. The record player fell, causing the now increased volume of the music to roar about the room. Dark red black dripped down onto her face. The candle wax had spilled over onto her, and onto the bulb of the lamp, lighting the room a fiery red. Adam, now standing, inspected the wound that had nearly pierced through his abdomen. Bright, inky red liquid leaked through his fingers, but the gash had only cut flesh. His heart had finally begun to beat again, pounding with a pulse that rattled his head and made his body shudder with one beat. One of the chair arms still dangled from his wrist by a binding rope. The rest of the chair lay on the floor behind him. Ava gazed up at Adam with hurt confusion. He stared back with an unsure expression. She maintained this stare as she rose. When she reached his level with a tear and a sob, he began to take a step back, but he was too slow. Her clear round eyes flashed red and sharp. Her sobs turned to a scream, and she flew at him. Her red nails scratched at his face like razor-sharp talons. Flying behind him, she grabbed his arm and brought it to his neck. Adam's side felt warm and wet with blood.
All the action was causing it to pour out of his wound. He tried to resist, but was shocked at her inhuman strength. Twisting his arm, Ava used the remaining rope that was attached to his wrist to wrap around his neck, effectively strangling him. The pounding in his head intensified. He fought her grip and pulled at the rope, but she was stronger.
What do you know about witches?
She recalled, letting out a deep, wheezing cackle that echoed through Adam's brain. His vision began to blur. His struggle weakened. He felt the wet blood between his fingers and began to pull. The rope was tight around his wrist, but he could feel it slipping. Just as he felt his hand might pop with the pressure, he ripped his arm free. Taking the opportunity, he threw Ava over his back in front of him. Landing in the rubble of the cabinet, she began to look around the ground for something. Air exploded into his lungs as Adam regained his breath. Ava pulled something from the splintered wood that glinted off the red light. Hardly pausing to stand, she launched the knife at him, slicing through the air with each miss. Adam stumbled away with each attempted blow, digging for something in his pocket. Ava began to shriek with rage before she was caught off guard by a blow to her face. When Ava fell back, she knocked the record off its place, leaving the room silent besides the whirring sound of the spinning record player. Her smooth and clear face was partially illuminated by a stream of blue moonlight. A spot on her cheek glowed red hot in the darkness. All Adam could hear was the pulse of his heart, blood and sweat dripping from his body. Ava slowly reached up to touch her face. "Yes, you are different," she whispered. Adam's knuckles turned white by his tight grip around a crucifix, Christ's bloody head mirroring Adam's own dripping face. As Ava crossed the floor once more, steam sizzled from her skin. Holy water doused her as Adam frantically emptied most of the bottle. Ava's shrieks began once more, and now there would be no silence. Grabbing his leg, she froze to the floor. Adam had touched the cross to her forehead. "Deus vult," he roared, continuing to speak in Latin verses. Ava writhed her head about, her smooth black hair turning splintery gray. The place where her hand gripped Adam burned like a hot iron, and burned more as she changed, and he shouted. Her skin turned to brine, wrinkled and leathery. Her eyes red and bloody, her teeth yellow and dirty. Adam's chest buzzed with his shouting vibrations. The only feeling was of each sharp finger singeing his flesh. Suddenly, the witch's movement slowed. Her satin gown turned to rags, began to burn away like paper. And then, her skin with it. Adam squeezed his eyes shut in fear, heat radiating onto his face and eyelids like he was sitting before a raging fire. His shouting was no match for the high-pitched scream that shook his eardrums. With all the noise, he finally realized she was gone. His chanting ceased, and he paused for air. Inspecting the floor, he found dusty pieces of rags and satin, and a small blade lodged deep into the floorboards. As he crouched, he noticed his leg, still feeling each finger. The place where her hand was had turned to a burn scar, cauterized by the flames of hell. Rising, he glanced about the quiet room, a shudder painting chills down his spine. Before he walked out, he paused once more to fix himself in the mirror, gazing back at the disheveled figure that stood before him. He ignored the bloodstains and shreds of clothing hanging from him, resigning only to rebutton
his shirt. Out in the yellow-orange lamplight of the street, he took out a pad of paper, scratching something off a scribbled list, pausing a moment to breathe in the now cool air. He lit a cigarette, fumbling with the matches in his pocket. Across the street, on the hood of a fossilized car, stood an old black and orange patched cat. It stared back at him with slanted eyes and pulled back pointed ears. Smoke filtered through his teeth as he smiled. Taking the remaining holy water from his pocket, he eyed the cat, flicking the liquid at the hood of the car. The cat jumped straight into the air before hissing and making his escape into the darkness. Adam chuckled before taking a long drag off his cigarette. The street was silent once more, and he turned to venture back down the cobblestone road. Sparks fly from fingertips. His singing echoed in the night. The end. Thanks for listening, and thank you to my author this week, T.C. Kinsey. I thoroughly enjoyed this story. If you'd like to follow the show on social media, you can do so at scareyoutosleep on all the socials. You can follow me personally at Shelby B. Novak, also on all the socials, but I mostly stick around Instagram these days. If you have a story you'd like considered to be on the show, please submit it to scareyoutosleep@gmail.com. And please put into the subject line whether it is a true story or a fictional one. It just helps me keep everything nice and tidy in my inbox. If you'd like bonus episodes and ad-free episodes, you can join the Patreon page, patreon.com/scareyoutosleep. And there is also merchandise. If you go to the show notes, you can find a link to my link tree, and you can find Scare You to Sleep merchandise, and you can wear pretty things that make you think of the show and represent the show and all the cool things. I want to add some more stuff to there soon, so keep a lookout for that. And what else? Oh, I will be on the show Drinking the Kool-Aid this coming Monday the 14th. So if you're a fan of that show, I've been friends with those girls for years. We've never worked together. So I was on Drinking the Kool-Aid again, Monday the 14th, where I talk about ARGs for an hour straight. And I explain to them what ARGs are, and I tell them about some of my favorites. It was a lot of fun, so I recommend you checking that out. And if you'd like more of me, of course, you can always find me over on the Bloody Disgusting podcast, which is now available on YouTube as a video podcast as well. And I think that's all for this week. No baking corner. It's been too hot to turn on my oven, and I just don't have much to yap about, so I'm going to let you off the hook and let you go early, because you've been so good this week. So I hope you have a great weekend, and I will see you next week. And wear your sunscreen, drink your water, all that good stuff. Stretch. Stretching is one I like to throw in every once in a while. Stretching feels so good. It's so good for you. So stretch, drink your water, wear your sunscreen, because I love you, and I want you to be the best you, and I want you to be around for a long time. And I think that's all. So go get some sleep. Sweet dreams.
This is a story about the supernatural.
Shelterwood is the land of dreams. If you want to find something here, you will.
This is a story of disappearances and homecomings.
I know your whole world has been turned upside down, but listen, I was really hoping I could convince you not to go back out there.
Investigating the disappearance of my sister, Sadie DeRosso.
I've never heard of anyone coming back, ever.
Subscribe now to Shelterwood, a Suburban Gothic, to follow this story.
Hello, Toxic Avenger fans. You know what that theme song means. It's time for another exclusive audio clip from The Toxic Avenger in theaters August 29th. This time, we bring you the sounds of someone cooking breakfast and listening to the news. Enjoy.
From New Chemistry High School for varsity tournament season. Coach Stanwyck, what can we expect from the Crimson Beaks this year?
New Chem is gonna nuke them.
Wouldn't want to be the Kennedy Cougars this Saturday, huh?
Man, fuck the Cougars. Fuck the Cougars!
Oh my God. So switching gears, we have a special exclusive.
Okay, that's great. Do you want to be part of a winning team? Want to stand up against the forces of evil, like the Kennedy Cougars and beyond? Join the fight at I'mWithToxie.com and then see The Toxic Avenger in theaters on August 29th. That's I'mWithToxie, TOXIE.com.
I found tapes in the house, audio, video, of a woman.
Check out the Screambox original series, The Trouble with Tessa, starting July 15th, only on Screambox.